14 matchups. Top matchups, we got 4. We got 4 because we have playoff implications for 4 out of the 5 games. And that is me versus Tommy, Brian versus the Beaties, Timmy versus Scotty, and Doug versus Kevin. There's really no order that we really need to go in. Is there anyone that you want to touch on first?
Oh, we can just go right down the line. I pulled you and Tommy up first.
Okay, let's do that. Go ahead.
So, honestly, the only chance Tommy has is a huge game from his 2 Aarons from Green Bay, Rodgers and Jones. With no Sanders, let me see. Does he have anything even at all to slot in there? He could pull Ellington up if he planned on starting Ellington, and he's got Jordan Howard, Crabtree. It's not good. It's not good for him at all. Trying to replace, Sanders, who's been a fairly reliable piece for him. I shouldn't say too reliable, but, overall for the season, he's the 15th wide receiver. So that's a huge loss for him. He needs big days from Hopkins, Woods. Sony Michel could have a big workload too. So, I'm not going to say it's impossible, but when you go across to the other side, although you do have some red question marks, I would expect all of these guys to play for you. And you just have, between Allen, Jones, Mixon, Deshaun Watson, Ertz, it's just going to be a lot for him. Kittle, even it's going to be tough for Tommy. I give him about a 12 to 15% chance to win this matchup.
So I'll say this: we didn't touch upon this in the recap from last week, just because we kind of like to rifle through those. But I'm missing James Conner, and James Conner was my top scoring player for the season, total points wise. Although Mike Tomlin said, "Oh, it's a leg contusion. It's a bruise." Yeah, no, it's a fucking high ankle sprain. The guy's going to be out for the rest of the fantasy playoffs. So, is that going to affect my matchup with Tommy this week? I do. I think it's going to have, or at least give Tommy more or higher percentage of upsetting me. Is it in my best interest to maybe let Tommy win this matchup and get into the playoffs without Emmanuel Sanders? There's an argument that could be made about that. But
I thought about that.
I mean, I thought about it too, but I don't want to curse off the fantasy gods. So I believe in. Yeah. I believe in you. Yeah.
I've seen it done in another league, and it does not go over well.
It never does. It never does. They just always know how to screw you. You can finagle your way for seedings and be like, oh, this is going to be a guaranteed win next week, and then you score 80 points.
Yeah, and the other thing, too, is it doesn't even guarantee that he would get in because
correct.
Timmy could still win. So, I thought about it. I was actually curious because, obviously I would rather see Tommy's team in the playoffs than Timmy and the Beaties. But, like you said, it tends to show back up in the form of bad karma.
Yeah, I just believe that you play your best lineup every week, let the chips fall as they may, and then just go from there. So I think Tommy's got a shot based off of what you said, the Rodgers and also the Aaron Jones, but also Sony Michel. I think he's going to have a better showing this week, and he's still got 2 good wide receivers in Hopkins and Woods, but I think I had the more consistent player, so I'm going to pick me. Moving on to Brian versus the Beaties. This is probably going to be the closest matchup out of all the matchups that we have. Well, maybe not all the matchups because we haven't gotten to you and Kevin. But, Brian could pull another upset. Brian could be a spoiler, so to speak, again in back-to-back weeks. But it's going to be tough because the Beaties have, they've got Christian McCaffrey, stud, Todd Gurley, stud. Although, did you see what he did in that Lions game? How he had the breakaway? Go on.
It's the second time he's done that this year.
But he did that with I think it was 6 minutes left.
Oh my God, did he? I didn't know that.
It was, well, maybe not 6, but it was definitely over 3 minutes left that he did it. In the other game, at least it was below the 2-minute warning. So I could definitely see Greg just searching for the finger glove, just to see, oh, please give me good luck. And then 2 plays later, Todd Gurley goes in. So, stud. But they also have some good plays And I like Tariq Cohen going against the Rams. That's going to be a high-scoring game. Tariq Cohen just coming
he's
off
been
a
hot.
30-point game.
Yeah, he's been hot.
I mean, he's even throwing touchdowns.
Why not?
That was a sick throw, by the way. It threaded the needle, as they say. And in that same game, you got Brandon Cooks. Brandon Cooks, is he the most underrated wide receiver in the NFL?
I guess he could be. Yeah.
He's got 1,000-yard season pretty much. I think every single year of his career.
Yeah, you might be right. Cooks could possibly be the most underrated receiver. He plays in that high-powered offense. A couple other guys who are useful there, maybe less so now with Cup out, but you got Woods there, you got Gurley there. Goff's a story too, so kind of see how he can get overlooked. Speaking on this matchup, Warbin's got 2 in a row now, 2 wins in a row, going for 3 to severely injure the chances of the Beaties to get in. Even though I think they'll probably get in either way. Wortman's team kind of started coming around. Antonio Brown's been reliable. Miller's been a good story. Thomas been a little quieter lately, but you got to figure he gets back going. Landry coming off a good game. Godwin starting to get featured. He's got some players that can definitely go off. So I think this one actually gets pretty close. Diggs, although does not have an injury designation on the BD side, he's been a little banged up, and he doesn't seem to play well when that's the case. So I'll say this one really comes down to a couple points. I think the Beaties get it done by, slim margin, 3-4 points.
Well, another thing that worked out for the Beaties, not only, with Gurley staying healthy throughout the year, McCaffrey being a top 5 running back, but also due to the Emmanuel Sanders injury, they have Courtland Sutton, and now he's the number 1 wide receiver in Denver. Do I think it's going to be a huge bump in volume? I don't, but he's definitely the go-to guy for Case Keenum in that offense. So if they can pull off a win here, that's definitely got great potential for them in future weeks. And then on Brian's team, we actually didn't even touch on the Kareem Hunt situation. Brian's team could be completely different if he had Kareem Hunt, because he had Kareem Hunt with the guys that you mentioned in Antonio Brown, Michael Thomas. Brian still has a good team, but now with no Hunt, kind of questions where Brian's going to be for the future. But let's just focus on this week. I think you're right. I think it's going to be a close matchup, but I think the Beaties are going to pull it off. The third of the top 4 matchups is Timmy versus Scotty. This one might be the most lopsided matchup. I say might. It probably is the most lopsided matchup, but there still are playoff implications here. If somehow, some way, Scotty, from his projected 72 points that he has right now, outscores Timmy's projected point total of 130, Timmy might be on the outside looking in, depending upon what happens to me and Tommy. But I'm burying the lead. Timmy's got more consistent players and also a higher upside on his team. Even DJ Moore, is starting to flash. He didn't have a great game, but he's getting consistent looks in that offense. Kenyon Drake had an okay game. I know you called him as his X factor last week, and he's the example of a boomer bust kind of player. So if he can just find that happy medium, Timmy's going to be fine, at least for this week. Yeah, not much to say on Scotty's side. He's got a lot of single-digit projected players. Christian Kirk going down definitely hurts him. But I don't think Scotty's looked at his lineup since...
Does not appear that way.
Since yesterday. So his projected points are going to go up. It's fair to question how far it's going to go up. I'm going to take Timmy. What do you think?
Fun fact about Scotty's roster, he currently rosters 6 players with an IR designation. Not good. A couple other guys with a severely questionable tag. Also not good. Yeah, he's got to address the lineup here, but yeah, Timmy gets it done, gets in the playoffs, and we'll be ready to make some noise.
As long as he gets Melvin Gordon back starting next week, if Timmy gets in the playoffs, gets Melvin Gordon back into the playoffs as well, Timmy's going to be right back to where he was throughout the majority of the regular season. But he's lost 2 games in a row. If he makes it 3, he may find himself on the outside looking in. The last top matchup is Doug versus the Barretts. And this is what I was saying is going to be the closest matchup. As of right now, the projected points are 136 on Doug's side compared to 134 on the Barrett side. And, it's Kevin missing AJ Green. He's got players in there that you really don't feel comfortable with playing. When it comes to your side, you've got guys that their floor is maybe, is a wide receiver 2 or a back end wide receiver 2, but could have the upside of a wide receiver 1. Running backs that are back end running back 2s, but have the upside of RB1. So, and then that's not even talking about your 3 Chiefs players of Mahomes, Hill, and Kelsey. So you got the floor from those 3, plus also the upside of the rest of your roster. I think that sets you up for a good win. Let me just go over to Kevin's side. Like I said, he's got people like Cameron Brate in there, Michael Gallup, Mark Ingram hasn't really done well so far in the last 2-3 games. Mike Evans hasn't had a blow-up game. He does get Leonard Fournette back, and he may need to carry, Fournette, Barkley, Cam Newton may need to carry him in this matchup, but even Cam Newton is hurt right now. He didn't even throw a Hail Mary at the end of his last game, so
He definitely hurt.
He's got shoulder problems. He's got something, but he can make up for it with his legs. He's a question mark. But if he gets great performances, not good performances, if he gets great performances from those guys, then that makes this matchup a little bit harder for you to pull off. Not a lot of playoff ramifications go off of this matchup. It just basically decides where you are in regards to your seeding, but I'm going to take you in regards to this matchup.
Yeah, I'm coming off, as you mentioned at the beginning, coming off 3 straight weeks scoring the most points. That would seem to me like I'm due for a quieter week. Tougher matchup for the Chiefs going against Baltimore, although it is at home. And I'm kind of back to that awkward spot with my last flex between Kerryon Johnson, probably doesn't play again. Josh Adams, who I had been using, playing Dallas. Dallas has been pretty tough against the run. Now you got Sproles back in the mix there, too, in the backfield. Clements coming on. So I don't really love having to use Adams there. I guess I would probably go Riddick again if Kerryon doesn't play. Cooper, it kind of comes down to – this matchup comes down to kind of Cooper or Gallup, both in really good matchups. Gallup came on pretty strong in their last game. 5 for 76. He's bound to start finding the end zone a little bit as the play calling and Dak get comfortable with Gallup playing that kind of solidified number 2 receiver role. He's kind of been a nice player. So I think you're right. I think this one's close. I could easily see the Barretts pulling this one off between Barkley and Evans and Juju and Leonard. Ingram's bound to have another good game, especially in a matchup with the Bucs, who have been just awful against the run. I'm going to go against myself this week. I'm going to say Maddie and Kev get it done. We'll call it 133 to 127.
I don't know how I feel about that. I feel like you're kind of an asshole for doing that. The guy never takes or goes against him up until the last week, where it really doesn't matter because he's already clinched a playoff spot. And then he takes the other team to sort of give him a glimmer of hope that even he thinks that there's a possibility that they're going to win, but it doesn't really matter. That's Doug right there. And then, so the last matchup is Sean versus Nick, and not a lot to go into detail in regards to this game, but if you do look at the projected points, I'm not a big fan of that, but it's a good visual. Nick is a heavy favorite in this matchup, and again, it's based off of the 5 players that I mentioned before. His running backs: DJ, Zeke, Carson, Chubb, and then also Russell Wilson. He's scoring over 110 points over the last few weeks. And if Sean doesn't get a good showing from his Patriots in a good matchup, they're in a good matchup going against the Dolphins, who don't really have a good defense. And I think Xavier Rhodes isn't going to play in that game, and he's been one of the top cornerbacks in the NFL. That definitely puts his Patriots in a better spot to perform better than what they've had over the last few weeks. And who knows? I mean, Beckham could throw another, touchdown in the next game. He's looking a hell of a lot better than Eli ever has, and that was with him throwing flat-footed. He was actually doing a juke, flat-footed, then threw a windmill 50-yard bomb that was perfect. Yes, the guy was wide open, but it was perfect. So maybe he does that some more, but I think Nick wins this game, and I don't know. What do you think?
Yeah, I'm comfortable going Nick here. Shauno's team is definitely looking more solid this week than it has in weeks past. But you mentioned it, between Chubb, Carson, DJ, and Zeke, and then toss Wilson on top and Curtis Samuel coming around. Nick's kind of got a little something cooking here. So I'll take Nick in a somewhat low scoring but respectable matchup.
Respectable matchup in a non-respectable game. So the betting locks of the week, again, I really didn't look at it all too much. I do know that there's one that I like before you can go into the 15 that you probably had, and I need to make my font, a font 8 just to fit them all in. But I'll give you one before you say I steal one from you, and that's Cleveland. I see +2. What do you see?
I see 1, but I'll give you +2.
All right, let's just call it 1.5, because who knows where the line ends up.
Doesn't really matter.
I think they're going to win that matchup going against Cleveland, going against the Panthers. Just like what we mentioned before, the Panthers are throwing out there a non-100% Cam Newton. The Cleveland defense is actually pretty good. They, with Myles Garrett and Denzel Ward covering both ends of the pass defense, they've actually performed pretty well for a good portion of the year. Panthers are going on the road, and a home underdog, I like that. So I'll give you Cleveland right now before you go into your 30 picks. Go on.
Cool. Yellow home dog, like a home dog. All right, I'm going to start on Saturday. Army-Navy tilt. Give me Army laying 7. Army's good, and Navy stinks. Army took Oklahoma to overtime earlier in this year. Oklahoma's in the Final Four playoff. Navy has 2 wins. Give me Army laying 7. I don't know how that line could possibly be so low. I know in this game the underdog tends to cover some, and a lot of times wins outright. I just don't see it this year. Army -7, probably my favorite play of the week. Moving into Sunday, against my better judgment, I'm going to give you Miami +9 at home versus the Patriots. Little big-time home dog here. Historically, the past 5 to 10 seasons, New England seems to struggle in Miami. They probably win the game. I think it's close. Give me Atlanta +5 at Green Bay. We outlined Green Bay stinks. They're missing pieces on the offensive line. Atlanta offense is due for a bigger game. Not sure what the weather entails out in the frozen tundra, but that's a spot I like. Atlanta. Give me Kansas City -7. I don't think Lamar Jackson is very good. He, good fantasy player, not a good professional quarterback at this point. I think Kansas City finds a way to game plan properly and take the legs out of it, and I think he struggles. I think Kansas City wins this one big time. Now I'm really getting into the uncomfortable zone for me. Give me the Giants -3.5. I hate the Giants. but I mean, we probably all watched Mark Sanchez the other day. I don't know if you saw this. He made up for the butt fumble with a butt fumble recovery. Did you catch that?
I did.
Pretty impressive. I mean, the guy's had a stellar career when it comes to fumbling and his derriere. Give me the Giants minus 3.5. Denver minus 4. I don't even know who they play. Who do they play?
They play
San Fran. Yeah, San Fran's struggling. Denver's defense has been very solid over the past month and a half. Like that one a lot. Dallas minus 3.5. You probably knew I was going there. Buy the hook in this one. Buy it down to 3. I don't see them losing this game. The defense is too good. And that's all I got for you.
Wow. I thought there was going to be another at least 8. So looking on my end, where is... All right, I'm going to pull something I just called you out on. I'm going to take the Raiders. What do you see the Raiders? Is it plus 10.5?
I see the Raiders at plus 12.
Yeah. I mean, I think the Steelers are going to win, but now they're missing Connor. They've never really performed well going from, to going out on the West Coast. You mentioned the Terrell Pryor run. Where was that? Out in Oakland. So I think Pittsburgh wins the game, but I do not think it's going to be by 13 points. So give me that one, but I'll be happy either way. And the other one I'll take is I think New Orleans has got to have a better game. Yes, they're going to be on the road against Tampa, but do you see it as minus 8?
I see actually 9.5.
I don't like 9.5.
Yeah, it's funny because I actually had Tampa plus 9.5 on my original drafted list, and I crossed it off because Tampa's one of those teams. My general rule of thumb is don't bet on games that involve the Tampa Bay Bucs because you literally have no idea what you're going to get from them.
No clue. Jameis Winston could run around like those flailing arm guys at a car dealership, or he could be the highest scoring fantasy quarterback in a given week. So actually, if it's 9.5, I don't want that. Looking real quickly so we can finish this. Give me Seattle at home. Are they still at minus 3?
I do see Seattle at 3. That's the Monday nighter in Seattle.
Okay, fine. Just to go, get this over with. Give me Seattle minus 3. Don't really love it, but they've been playing
it feels
great.
Like that line feels like it should be higher. That one's a little stinky.
It's a little weird. Would have loved it. I think it opened up at 2 or 2.5. So it is moving in the other direction. So there's that. All right. So there goes my 3 picks, and there goes your 20 picks. I saw Eric Reed had a late hit in this last game, so he's still continuing to be a scumbag. Anything else you have to add? Okay, I think I just lost Doug. So either that or he really didn't like my Seattle pick. So thanks again, guys, for listening, and we'll see you guys next week for the first round of the playoffs. Playoffs? Talking about playoffs? See you guys next week.
Lucifer, dawn of the morning, I'm gonna chase you out of earth.